A clear northern sky, a calm, sun-dappled sea. Then, the first drop. Not a refreshing spray, but a searing splash. Rain that hissed on wood, smoked on skin, and devoured everything it touched. A specific point in the vast, indifferent ocean where the very heavens weep tears of acid. The year is 1788. The vessel, a sturdy merchant brigantine named the Njord's Heart, plied the northern trade routes, her holds laden with timber and furs. Her captain, Elias Thorne, was a man of the sea, his face etched by salt and sun, his logbook a testament to meticulous observation. It is within these weathered pages that we find the chilling genesis of our investigation. On a late autumn afternoon, with the sun low and weak, the Njord's Heart found herself in an unnerving calm. The wind, which had been a constant, boisterous companion for days, simply ceased. The sails hung limp, the only sound the rhythmic creak of timbers and the distant, mournful cry of a gannet. Captain Thorne noted the unusual stillness in his log. 14th October, 1788, latitude 62nd degree north, longitude 15 degree west, sea glass, wind fallen entirely, an unnatural quiet. Stars visible by midday, disquiet amongst the crew. It began subtly, not with the drumming of a downpour, but with isolated impacts. Scattered drops, almost imperceptible at first, struck the main deck. A sailor patching a sail flinched as a drop landed on his hand. He looked down, expecting a splash of brine, but instead a thin wisp of steam rose from his skin. A sharp, stinging sensation followed. He cried out. More drops followed, not from clouds, for the sky remained a startling, cloudless blue overhead, but seemingly from the empty air itself. They hit the varnished oak of the deck with a faint, disturbing hiss. Where they landed, the wood almost immediately darkened, then began to smoke. A smell, acrid and metallic, like burnt copper and sour milk, rose from the deck. The watchman on the foredeck shouted, his voice laced with terror. "Captain, the rain! It burns!" Thorne rushed forward. He saw it then. Not a storm front, not a squall, but a defined circular patch of ocean where the air shimmered, and from it a silent, relentless drizzle descended. These were not drops of water. These were drops of concentrated malevolence. A boatswain, attempting to cover a hatch, recoiled as a drop landed on his leather glove. The material sizzled, smoking, and then began to blacken and curl as if held to a flame. Panic erupted. Men scrambled, shouting, seeking shelter where none truly existed. The rain was not heavy, but its effect was instantaneous and horrifying. The drops were like molten lead, yet cold. Thorne later wrote in an addendum to his log, transcribed by the Admiralty's clerk years later. They ate at the canvas, shredding it to lace. The ropes, stout hemp, hissed and frayed before our eyes, strands dissolving into vapor. The deck planks, thick oak, pitted and scarred, the varnish blistering like a fevered skin. A man's cry as a drop struck his eye was a sound I pray to never hear again. The Njord's Heart was caught. The lack of wind, the very calm that had seemed so eerie, now trapped them in this hellish downpour. Thorne, a man of iron nerve, ordered every available man to the oars. It was a desperate, near futile effort. The longboats, usually a means of escape, were already showing signs of damage, their paint bubbling, their wood smoking. "Row! Pull, you sons of the North!" Thorne roared, his voice hoarse, ignoring the painful sting as drops found purchase on his exposed skin. His boots slipped on the corroding deck. The air grew thick with the acrid smell, burning their throats, making their eyes water. The ship, propelled by sheer terror and the desperate burning effort of the oarsmen, slowly began to move. They crawled, inch by agonizing inch, towards the edge of the visible anomaly. The tear zone, as it would later be dubbed, held them in its grip, eating away at their vessel, threatening to dissolve them entirely. Hours later, battered and half-blinded, the Njord's Heart limped out of the zone. The moment the corrosive rain ceased, the world seemed to hold its breath. The sun, still low, felt suddenly warm and benign, but the damage was profound. The mainmast was scarred, ropes hung in tattered strands, and the deck was a pockmarked landscape of blackened, smoking wood. 2 men were severely burned, their flesh seared by the acidic drops. Others suffered from painful blisters and inflamed eyes. Captain Thorne's report to the Admiralty, later filed under Unexplained Maritime Phenomena, detailed the impossible event. His account, corroborated by the terrified crew, spoke of a localized, corrosive rain falling from a clear sky, defying all natural law. It was the first chilling clue to a mystery that has haunted these waters for centuries. This impossible rain, these tears of a hidden force, demand an explanation. Join us as we unravel the deeper secrets of this maritime enigma. Like this video and subscribe to the Maritime Chronicler for more investigations into the ocean's most profound mysteries. The year is 1788. The vessel, a sturdy merchant brigantine named the Njord's Heart, plied the northern trade routes, her holds laden with timber and furs. Her captain, Elias Thorne, was a man of the sea, his face etched by salt and sun, his logbook a testament to meticulous observation. It is within these weathered pages that we find the chilling genesis of our investigation. On a late autumn afternoon, with the sun low and weak, the Njord's Heart found herself in an unnerving calm. The wind, which had been a constant, boisterous companion for days, simply ceased. The sails hung limp, the only sound the rhythmic creak of timbers and the distant, mournful cry of a gannet. Captain Thorne noted the unusual stillness in his log, 14th October, 1788. Latitude 60 degree north, longitude 15 degree west. Sea glass, wind fallen entirely, an unnatural quiet, stars visible by midday, disquiet amongst the crew. A strange dread permeates the very air. This entry, initially dismissed by some as the ramblings of a man deeply shaken, would eventually become the first confirmed record of what the maritime world would come to call the tear zone. It began subtly, not with the drumming of a downpour, but with isolated impacts. Scattered drops, almost imperceptible at first, struck the main deck. A sailor, patching a sail, flinched as a drop landed on his hand. He looked down, expecting a splash of brine, but instead a thin wisp of steam rose from his skin. A sharp, stinging sensation followed. He cried out, dropping his needle, staring at the small, angry blister forming on his skin. More drops followed, not from clouds, for the sky remained a startling, cloudless blue overhead, but seemingly from the empty air itself. They hit the varnished oak of the deck with a faint, disturbing hiss. Where they landed, the wood almost immediately darkened, then began to smoke. A smell, acrid and metallic, like burnt copper and sour milk, rose from the deck, stinging their nostrils. The watchman on the foredeck shouted, his voice laced with terror, "Captain, the rain! It burns! By the gods, it burns!" Thorne rushed forward, his seasoned eyes scanning the impossible scene. He saw it then, not a storm front, not a squall, but a defined circular patch of ocean, perhaps a quarter-mile wide, where the air shimmered, almost vibrating, and from it, a silent, relentless drizzle descended. These were not drops of water. These were drops of concentrated malevolence. A boatswain, attempting to cover a hatch with a canvas tarp, recoiled as a drop landed on his leather glove. The material sizzled, smoking, and then began to blacken and curl as if held to a flame, leaving a raw, red mark on his hand. Panic erupted. Men scrambled, shouting, seeking shelter where none truly existed. The rain was not heavy, but its effect was instantaneous and horrifying. Each drop, a tiny, potent weapon. The drops were like molten lead, yet cold to the touch. Thorne later wrote in an addendum to his log, transcribed by the Admiralty's clerk years later, his handwriting still showing the tremor of the memory. They ate at the canvas, shredding it to lace. The ropes, stout hemp, hissed and frayed before our eyes, strands dissolving into vapor. The deck planks, thick oak, pitted and scarred, the varnish blistering like a fevered skin, revealing the raw, smoking timber beneath. The cries of men, as drops struck exposed flesh or eyes, were sounds I pray to never hear again. A living ship devoured by the very air, trapped in a liquid fire. The Njord's Heart was caught. The lack of wind, the very calm that had seemed so eerie just moments before, now trapped them in this hellish downpour. Thorne, a man of iron nerve, his own skin now prickling with the insidious burn, ordered every available man to the oars. It was a desperate, near-futile effort. The longboats, usually a means of escape, were already showing signs of damage, their paint bubbling, their wood smoking, the very pitch in their seams beginning to run. "Row! Pull! You sons of the north! Pull for your lives!" Thorn roared, his voice hoarse, ignoring the painful sting as drops found purchase on his exposed skin. His boots slipped on the corroding deck, the planks now slick with a strange, oily residue and acidic froth. The air grew thick with the acrid smell, burning their throats, making their eyes water, and their lungs ache. The ship, propelled by sheer terror and the desperate burning effort of the oarsmen, slowly began to move. They crawled, inch by agonizing inch, towards the edge of the visible anomaly, a desperate race against the clock as their vessel literally melted beneath them. The tear zone, as it would later be dubbed, held them in its grip, eating away at their vessel, threatening to dissolve them entirely, piece by agonizing piece. Hours later, battered and half-blinded, the Njord's heart finally limped out of the zone. The moment the corrosive rain ceased, the world seemed to hold its breath. The sun, still low, felt suddenly warm and benign, a blessing after the torment. But the damage was profound. The mainmast was scarred and weakened. Ropes hung in tattered, useless strands, and the deck was a pockmarked landscape of blackened, smoking wood. 2 men were severely burned, their flesh seared by the acidic drops, their screams still echoing in the minds of their shipmates. Others suffered from painful blisters, inflamed eyes, and a deep, rattling cough from the acrid fumes. The ship itself was a ghost of its former self, a testament to an impossible horror. Captain Thorne's report to the Admiralty, later filed under Unexplained Maritime Phenomena, detailed the impossible event. His account, corroborated by the terrified crew, spoke of a localized, corrosive rain, falling from a clear sky, defying all natural law. It was the first chilling clue to a mystery that has haunted these waters for centuries. This impossible rain, these tears of a hidden force, demand an explanation. Join us as we unravel the deeper secrets of this maritime enigma. Like this video and subscribe to the Maritime Chronicler for more investigations into the ocean's most profound mysteries. The account of the Njord's heart was for decades relegated to the realm of maritime folklore, a terrifying, unconfirmed whisper among sailors. But the whispers turned to chilling certainty in the early 19th century with the grim discovery of the sea serpent. She was a whaling ship, stoutly built for the brutal northern hunt and known for her resilience against the harshest gales. Yet, what fate befell her defied every known force of nature. In 1807, a Norwegian fishing ketch, the Valravn, was driven off course by a squall that quickly dissipated, leaving behind a thick, unsettling fog. As the mist began to lift, the lookout cried out. There, impossibly, a derelict vessel drifted, her masts like skeletal fingers against the gray sky. It was the Sea Serpent, months overdue from her last known position, her fate previously a grim enigma. Captain Lars Olsen of the Valravn, a man who had seen his share of wrecks, felt a cold dread settle in his gut. This was no ordinary ghost ship. As they cautiously approached, the silence that hung about the Sea Serpent was profound, more unsettling than any storm. There was no sign of life, no movement on her deck, no tattered sails to catch the phantom wind. But it was the nature of her ruin that froze the blood. She floated low in the water, but not from a breach below the waterline. Her hull appeared intact beneath the surface. The devastation was entirely above deck. Her once proud masts were not snapped by wind, but gnawed, their wood scored and blackened, as if by 1,000 tiny burning teeth. Ropes, once thick as a man's arm, hung in brittle charred wisps, dissolving into a fine powder at the slightest touch. The deck itself was a landscape of horror. Lars Olsen and a small boarding party rowed over, their faces pale. The air around the Sea Serpent still held a faint, acrid tang, a ghostly echo of the corrosive air. Stepping onto her deck was like stepping onto a battlefield, where the enemy was invisible, intangible. The planking was not merely rotted or splintered, it was eroded. Pitted craters marred the surface, some deep enough to reveal the framing timbers beneath. The ship's bell, usually solid brass, was streaked with green corrosion, its surface eaten away as if by a powerful solvent. The most horrific evidence lay in the remnants of the whaleboats. Once lashed securely to the deck, they were reduced to charred skeletal frames, their wooden ribs exposed, their canvas covers vanished. It was as if a rain of pure fire had fallen upon them, yet there was no evidence of a conventional blaze, no large-scale charring, no widespread ash, only this localized, intense erosion. The sea serpent's logbook was found in the captain's cabin, miraculously preserved in a brass-bound chest, though its leather cover was severely pitted. The final entries confirmed the unspeakable. Calm descended, then the drops. Small, hissing, they eat the wood. By God, they eat! Deck smoking, men screaming. The air itself turns to venom. Trapped, the Lord forgive us. The final entry, a frantic scrawl, trailed off into an illegible smear, followed by a single, dark, indelible stain that had burned through several pages. No bodies were found, no sign of the crew. They had simply vanished, presumably consumed by the very rain that destroyed their ship, or perhaps washed overboard in the chaos as their vessel dissolved beneath them. This was not the work of a rogue wave, nor a hidden reef, nor even the most violent of storms. This was a precise, terrifying annihilation from above. Captain Olsen's report, delivered to the Danish Admiralty, became a pivotal document. Combined with Thorne's earlier account, it confirmed the horrifying truth. There was a specific, unholy place in the northern seas where the sky rained acid. The sea serpent was not merely damaged, she was liquefied by it. Her wreck served as a chilling, tangible monument to the lethal power of the crying god of the deeps, a silent, dissolving warning to any mariner who dared to venture too close to its weeping domain. The evidence was irrefutable. The ocean held a secret that could melt ships from the sky. The chilling demise of the sea serpent and the harrowing account of the Njord's heart firmly established the tear zone as a legitimate, albeit terrifying, maritime phenomenon. Yet for centuries, it remained largely uninvestigated, a dark patch on nautical charts marked with a general warning, a place to be avoided at all costs. The unpredictable nature of its appearance, the sheer destructive power, and the inherent danger of approaching it kept serious scientific inquiry at bay. That changed with the advent of modern technology. In the late 20th century, with the development of advanced meteorological sensors, long-range drones, and remotely operated vehicles, the allure of the tear zone became irresistible to a new breed of anomaly investigators. The question was no longer if it existed, but how and why. The first serious modern attempt to study the zone came in 1987, led by a joint Scandinavian-British research consortium. Their vessel, the Oceanic Dawn, a purpose-built research platform, was equipped with state-of-the-art atmospheric sampling equipment, advanced sonar, and a newly developed long-range drone designed to withstand extreme conditions. The plan was audacious: locate the zone, deploy the drone into its heart, and collect definitive chemical and atmospheric data without risking human life. They found it, not by charting, but by detection. As the Oceanic Dawn approached the general coordinates derived from historical accounts, their sophisticated air quality sensors began to register anomalous readings. A faint, acrid smell, almost imperceptible at first, registered on the filters. Then, the pH sensors in the air began to plummet, indicating an alarming level of acidity. The sea, too, began to change, losing its natural chop, settling into an unnerving, almost oily stillness. "We're on the perimeter," Dr. Alistair Finch, the lead atmospheric chemist, announced over the ship's intercom, his voice taut with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "Atmospheric pH is dropping rapidly. Visual confirms the unnaturally calm surface. It's here." The drone, a sleek, reinforced aluminum craft, was launched. Its onboard cameras transmitted a live feed back to the Oceanic Dawn's bridge. The images were stark. The world outside the zone was a familiar blue-gray, but within the perimeter, the air shimmered with an almost liquid quality. and the surface of the sea was a mirror, reflecting the stark, clear sky. Then, the first drops appeared on the camera lens, sizzling and beating, distorting the image. The drone entered the tear zone. The acidic rain, though visually light, immediately began its work. The drone's reinforced casing, designed to withstand heavy weather, began to show signs of stress. Paint blistered and peeled. The composite materials of its wings smoked. On the bridge of the Oceanic Dawn, the team watched in horrified fascination as the drone's external temperature sensors spiked, not from heat, but from the corrosive reaction itself. "Telemetry's failing," a technician shouted. Acids eating through the external wiring. The drone's propulsion system began to sputter. The video feed flickered, then showed streaks of black as the camera lens itself corroded. The last coherent image transmitted was a close-up of the drone's own wing, visibly dissolving, the metal weeping, a strange, viscous ooze. Then, silence. The signal flatlined. The drone, a multi-million-dollar piece of cutting-edge technology, had been consumed in minutes. Subsequent attempts were equally futile and often more harrowing. A remote-controlled mini-submarine, deployed to sample the water within the zone, suffered a similar fate. Its hardened hull, designed for deep-sea pressure, began to pit and weep upon contact with the surface water. Its external sensors shorted out almost immediately. The last data burst indicated a pH level so low it defied oceanographic norms, a level that should have been impossible in open water. The sub, too, was lost. "It's like the zone rejects intrusion," remarked Captain Eva Lund, commander of the Oceanic Dawn, in her debriefing report. "Not just physically, but almost actively. Anything we send in is annihilated. It's not just a localized storm, it's a localized annihilation field." The Oceanic Dawn itself, despite maintaining a safe distance, suffered minor but persistent damage. Her hull paint was subtly discolored along the waterline. The very air around her, even outside the direct impact zone, felt strangely charged, thick with the smell of ozone and something akin to burnt metal. Crew members reported a persistent metallic taste in their mouths and an unsettling, almost psychic malaise when too close to the zone's periphery. These modern expeditions, far from demystifying the tear zone, only deepened its enigma. The zone actively defends its secret, a corrosive barrier that melts technology as readily as it did ancient timber. It remains a precise, unnervingly still circle of death in the vast ocean, a place where the rules of chemistry and meteorology appear to be suspended, or perhaps rewritten, by a force we still cannot comprehend. The ghost of the sea serpent and the Njord's heart still sail there, their fate a grim, active warning. The relentless, corrosive power of the tear zone, confirmed by both historical accounts and modern failed expeditions, begged for an explanation. Science, with its instruments and theories, had been rebuffed. So the investigation turned to older wisdom, to the whispers and sagas of the coastal communities that had lived alongside the northern seas for millennia. And there, woven into the very fabric of their folklore, was a tale that resonated with chilling accuracy, the legend of the crying god of the deeps. Among the ancient Norse, Celtic, and even some Sami traditions of the far north, there existed a shared, though often fragmented mythology surrounding a powerful, primordial sea deity. This was not a benevolent god like Njord, or a tempestuous one like Aegir, but something far older, far more elemental. It was a god of the abyssal depths, of the silent, crushing darkness beneath the waves, a keeper of ancient secrets and forgotten treasures. Its name, if it had one, was lost to time, known only by its sorrow. Coastal sagas speak of a time when this deity, in its primordial form, resided in a magnificent, hidden underwater realm, a cathedral of coral and obsidian. Here, at the heart of its domain, rested an artifact of immense power and beauty, the heart of the abyssal light. Described not as a gem, but as a pulsating, living essence, a star fallen into the ocean, it was said to glow with an inner luminescence, capable of illuminating the deepest trenches and bringing life to barren sea floors. This artifact was the very core of the deity's power, its solace, its connection to the living world. The legend continues that, in an age of reckless hubris, a group of powerful, greedy sorcerers, or perhaps a rogue faction of arrogant human kings, seeking to harness the ocean's primordial power for their own nefarious ends, dared to penetrate the deity's sacred domain. They fought through ancient guardians, navigated treacherous currents, and ultimately, by means of dark magic and cunning, stole the heart of the abyssal light from its altar. The consequences were immediate and catastrophic. The theft plunged the deity into an unfathomable sorrow, a grief so profound that it shattered the very balance of the deep. The ocean itself wept, but these were not tears of water. These were tears of pure, unadulterated divine anguish, condensed into a corrosive essence, a manifestation of the god's rage and despair. The air burns where its sorrow falls, recounted an old Icelandic fisherman, his eyes wide with ancient fear, to a folklorist in the early 20th century. The sea weeps for its lost heart, and the tears, they are the god's own acid, punishing any who come too close to the wound where its treasure was ripped away. The legends are remarkably consistent on several points. 1. Localized grief. The weeping is not global, but intensely localized, centered over the very spot where the heart of the abyssal light was stolen. This explains the precise, confined nature of the tear zone. 2. Unending sorrow. The deity's sorrow is eternal, hence the perpetual nature of the acidic rain, regardless of surrounding weather patterns. It is a constant lament. 3. Active repulsion. The corrosive nature of the tears is not merely a byproduct of grief, but an active defense mechanism, a divine ward against further intrusion. The god wounded pushes away anything that dares to trespass on its pain. This aligns chillingly with the failed modern expeditions. 4. The nature of the lost artifact. While vague, the heart of the abyssal light is consistently described as something radiant, vital, and central to the deity's being. Its absence causes the constant destructive manifestation. Ancient sagas also mention a peculiar stillness that precedes the acidic rain, a profound calm where even the gulls fall silent. This aligns perfectly with Captain Thorne's log entry from the Njord's Heart and Dr. Finch's modern observations. It is interpreted as the world holding its breath, acknowledging the approach of divine sorrow. Could this be more than mere myth? Is the tear zone not a meteorological anomaly, but a cosmic wound? A place where the very fabric of reality is warped by the unending grief of a forgotten, primordial deity? The scientific mind recoils from such a notion, yet the evidence, both historical and contemporary, points to a phenomenon that defies conventional explanation. The tears of the crying god continue to fall, a monument to a profound, ancient loss and a chilling warning that some mysteries of the deep are not merely natural, but divine. The ancient sagas provided a profound, if mystical, explanation for the tear zone, the unending sorrow of a forgotten god. But the scientific mind, relentless in its pursuit of empirical truth, demanded a different kind of answer. Despite the terrifying failures of initial expeditions, researchers pressed on, analyzing every scrap of data, every corroded fragment, seeking to ground the impossible in the laws of chemistry and geology. Dr. Anya Sharma, a leading marine geochemist from the University of Oslo, spearheaded much of this theoretical work. The sheer localized acidity is unprecedented, Dr. Sharma stated in a published paper from 2003. We're talking about a pH level that can dissolve metals and organic compounds in minutes, yet it's confined to a relatively small area, often under a clear sky. This points away from atmospheric origin alone and towards a deep sea source. The prevailing scientific hypotheses revolve around two primary mechanisms, both requiring incredibly rare and specific geological conditions. First, unique geothermal venting. Beneath the tear zone, geological surveys using highly specialized, heavily shielded sonar have indeed detected evidence of a complex active fault system. This suggests the presence of hydrothermal vents, similar to those found along mid-ocean ridges. However, unlike typical black smokers that spew superheated mineral-rich water, the theory posits a unique kind of vent beneath the tear zone, one releasing highly volatile, acidic gases from deep within the Earth's mantle. Imagine a white smoker vent, but instead of sulfur compounds, it's rich in halogen acids, explains Dr. Kenji Tanaka, a volcanologist from the Tokyo Institute of Technology. Specifically, hydrogen fluoride or hydrogen chloride. These are highly corrosive gases. If released in a concentrated plume, they would immediately react with the abundant water vapor in the atmosphere, forming a potent acid rain. The challenge with this theory is the purity and concentration required for such a reaction to create the observed destruction. Normal volcanic emissions are quickly dispersed and diluted. This leads to the second, more unsettling hypothesis: an unusual subterranean gas release from a highly reactive mineral deposit. This theory suggests that deep within the ocean floor, perhaps within a unique geological formation, there lies a vast, undiscovered reservoir of highly reactive elements or compounds. These compounds, under immense pressure and heat, could be continuously releasing a specific unseen gas. This gas would then rise through the water column, forming a concentrated plume. We found trace elements in the corroded drone fragments, Dr. Sharma revealed in a leaked preliminary report that suggest a unique elemental signature, high concentrations of fluorine, and even some exotic, unstable isotopes, not commonly found in surface waters. This points to a source unlike any known terrestrial or marine deposit. The mechanism would then be as follows. This highly corrosive gas, invisible and odorless in its pure form, escapes from the seafloor. As it rises, it encounters the cooler, water-rich layers of the ocean and the atmosphere. The gas then undergoes a rapid chemical reaction with water molecules, forming an aerosol of concentrated acid droplets. The density of this aerosol, combined with the atmospheric stillness often observed, could cause it to fall as a localized, devastating rain. The unnatural calm, frequently noted by witnesses like Captain Thorne and the Oceanic Dawn crew, could be a critical component of this process. It's theorized that the rising plume of gas, or the unique atmospheric conditions it creates, could actively suppress wind currents, effectively creating a contained chimney through which the corrosive agent ascends and falls, preventing its dispersal. While these scientific theories offer a glimpse into the possible mechanics of the tear zone, they also highlight the sheer extremity of the phenomenon. They require geological formations, chemical reactions, and atmospheric conditions so rare and so perfectly aligned that they border on the improbable. Science attempts to explain it, but the explanations themselves, requiring such precise and persistent anomalies, only deepen the sense of profound, almost impossible mystery. It is a place where the Earth itself seems to weep, whether from a geological wound or, as the legends insist, from a sorrow far older than humanity. The enigma of the tear zone deepens when we consider its most baffling characteristic, its unnerving localization. How can a phenomenon of such destructive power, a constant, corrosive downpour, remain confined to a precise, relatively small circle in the vast, dynamic expanse of the open ocean? The forces of wind and wave should, by all natural laws, disperse it instantly, yet it persists, a fixed point of perpetual annihilation. Meteorological analysts, poring over the limited data from failed expeditions, have grappled with this paradox. Dr. Alara Vance, a theoretical oceanographer, proposed the atmospheric chimney hypothesis in a classified NATO maritime defense report. For the corrosive agent to maintain such concentration, she argued, there must be a stable, localized atmospheric conduit, a chimney or funnel, through which the destructive medium is continually drawn upwards and falls back down, largely unaffected by ambient weather patterns. This chimney could be sustained by several mechanisms. One theory links directly to the proposed geological sources. If the acidic gases are indeed emanating from a geothermal vent or a reactive mineral deposit on the seafloor, the constant release of superheated gas or chemically reactive vapors could create a powerful thermal updraft. This updraft would effectively punch a hole through the lower atmosphere, drawing in cooler air from the sides and creating a stable, low-pressure column. Any acid droplets formed within this column would then fall back down, guided by the very air currents they help to generate. Another hypothesis centers on subtle yet profound atmospheric pressure anomalies. Imagine a permanent, stable bubble of intensely low pressure directly above the zone, surrounded by a ring of slightly higher pressure. This pressure differential, though invisible, would act like an invisible wall, containing the phenomenon. It's akin to a self-sustaining microcyclone, explains veteran weather forecaster Captain Renard Dubois, retired, but one where the rain is a chemical agent and the storm is a perpetual, contained chemical reaction. The stillness that Captain Thorne reported isn't just eerie, it's a critical component of the containment, a lack of external force, allowing this unnatural equilibrium to hold. But perhaps the most compelling and unsettling theory involves an unseen, massive influence beneath the waves. What if the source of the tears is not merely a geological vent, but a colossal, stable, underwater structure? This submerged mass, perhaps a unique caldera, an ancient, undiscovered seamount, or even something artificial, could be influencing the hydrodynamics and atmospheric conditions directly above it. A massive, submerged landmass could create highly localized, stable water currents, suggests Dr. Anya Sharma. Revisiting her earlier work, these currents in turn could induce specific thermal gradients in the water column that then translate into stable air currents above the surface. It's a chain reaction where the deep-sea topography dictates the weather pattern directly above it, creating a perfect, contained environment for the acidic rain to form and fall. Could this massive underwater structure be linked to the heart of the abyssal light from the ancient legends? Is it the remnants of the deity's lost domain, or perhaps even the resting place of the stolen artifact itself? Its absence creating this perpetual wound? The persistence of the tear zone, its refusal to dissipate or drift, points to an anchor, a fixed point from which this impossible destruction emanates. It suggests a profound, unyielding force that not only creates the corrosive rain, but actively holds it in place, a silent, unmoving monument to a secret guarded by ceaseless, burning tears. The question is not just what causes the tears, but what holds them captive, a chilling testament to a power that defies all earthly understanding. The ancient legends spoke of the heart of the abyssal light, a radiant artifact stolen from a primordial sea god, its absence triggering an eternal, corrosive lament. For the scientific mind, this narrative, while evocative, presents a challenge. How do we translate myth into measurable reality? Our investigation now turns to re-examining this lost artifact through a scientific lens, seeking a tangible, yet equally extraordinary source for the crying god's tears. Could the heart of the abyssal light be less a mythical gem and more a unique geological phenomenon? Dr. Petra Solberg, a leading expert in deep-sea mineralogy, proposed in a recent symposium that the zone's core might conceal an unprecedented geological formation. We're considering the possibility of a massive, exposed deposit of highly reactive minerals. Dr. Solberg elaborated, imagine a vein of crystalline compounds, perhaps a unique form of cryolite or an unknown halide that reacts violently and continuously with seawater under the immense pressure and temperature of the deep. This reaction could perpetually release the acidic vapor that rises to the surface. This theory aligns with the trace elements found in the corroded drone fragments from Part 4, those unusual concentrations of fluorine and unstable isotopes. If a vast, unmined deposit of such reactive material exists at the seafloor, its slow, inexorable dissolution could be the very wound the crying god legend describes. The theft of the artifact, then, might not be a physical removal, but the initiation of this corrosive process, perhaps triggered by a seismic event or an ancient, destructive deep-sea current that exposed the reactive vein. But what if the artifact is not a geological feature, but a unique, highly reactive element itself? Theoretical physicists and xenogeologists have toyed with the concept of transuranic elements, elements far heavier and more unstable than anything naturally occurring on Earth's surface, forged in the crushing furnaces of the deep Earth. If such an element existed, posits Dr. Arthur Pendleton, a material scientist from Caltech, one with an incredibly short half-life, or one that reacted exothermically with water, its presence could create a perpetual, localized chemical furnace. The light of the artifact could be its inherent radioactivity, and its absence the continuous, destructive byproduct of its decay. This would explain the constant, unyielding nature of the tears, a slow, unstoppable atomic decay releasing corrosive byproducts. Yet the most audacious reinterpretation of the lost artifact comes from the field of xenobiology. What if the heart of the abyssal light is not inert, but alive? A bizarre, ancient marine organism, unlike anything known to science, a colossal, sessile entity that forms the very core of the tear zone. Consider an abyssal organism that metabolizes unique chemosynthetic compounds, suggests Dr. Lena Petrova, a deep-sea ecologist. Perhaps it excretes highly acidic waste products as part of its life cycle, or its very biological processes alter the local water chemistry to such an extreme degree that it induces the atmospheric acid rain. The light could be its bioluminescence, and its grief the constant painful process of its existence, or perhaps its slow death. This creature, anchored to the seafloor, would be the unchanging source, its biological output creating the perpetual, localized destruction. Its immense size and unique adaptations would make it impervious to its own corrosive environment, a living engine of despair. Each of these scientific interpretations, while attempting to demystify the legend, only replaces one profound mystery with another equally astonishing one. Whether the heart of the abyssal light is a unique geological wound, an unstable, unknown element, or a colossal, acid-producing organism, its continuous influence defines the tear zone. It remains the fixed, active core of this impossible phenomenon, a silent, destructive engine that fuels the crying god's unending, corrosive tears. The scientific and geological hypotheses, while offering a rational framework for the tear zone, often overlook a crucial dimension, the profound human experience of encountering this anomaly. For those who have witnessed its terrifying power, the crying god of the deeps is more than a chemical reaction or a geological oddity. It is a spiritual assault, a place where the very air seems to hold a chilling, pervasive despair. Survivor testimonies, though rare and often fragmented, speak with a haunting consistency. Captain Elias Thorne's log from the Njord's heart mentioned disquiet amongst the crew, and a strange dread permeates the very air. Modern sailors who have inadvertently drifted too close to the zone's perimeter report similar sensations. They describe a sudden, unnatural silence, a cessation of wind and wave that precedes the rain, an oppressive stillness that presses down on the soul. It wasn't just the burning, recounted a grizzled Norwegian fisherman, Ola Knudsen, whose trawler once skirted the zone's edge in the late 1960s. It was the quiet. The gulls stopped, the waves flattened like glass. You could hear your own heart hammering in your chest and nothing else. And then the smell, like ozone, yes, like lightning strike, but also something else. Something foul, like old decay, like a tomb. This smell of ozone and decay has been consistently reported, a signature of the zone that precedes the visible rain, often inducing nausea and a creeping sense of dread. Psychological reports on those who have directly experienced the tear zone often note symptoms akin to acute anxiety and post-traumatic stress, but with an unusual, almost existential component. They speak of a pervasive sense of profound sadness, noted Dr. Ingrid Vinter, a clinical psychologist specializing in extreme environmental trauma. Not just fear for their lives, but an overwhelming, inexplicable grief, as if the zone itself radiates sorrow, infecting the minds of those who enter it. This aligns chillingly with the ancient legends of a crying god, whose immense grief manifests not only physically, but spiritually. Folklore surrounding the tear zone has evolved over centuries, intertwining with the direct experiences of mariners. Coastal communities tell cautionary tales of sailors driven mad by the silence and the acidic smell, of ships found with no crew, only the haunting marks of the burning rain. Some legends claim that the zone is a gateway to a realm of eternal suffering, a place where the souls of the drowned are trapped. their silent screams manifesting as the corrosive tears. They say if you listen closely when the air goes still, whispered an old woman from a remote pharaoh's village, her eyes fixed on the distant, unblinking horizon. You can hear it, not a sound with your ears, but a feeling in your bones. A lament. The god is crying, and it wants its heart back. It wants you to feel its pain. This concept of an active, almost sentient sorrow radiating from the zone adds a terrifying layer to its mystery. It suggests that the tears are not merely a chemical byproduct, but an emotional expression, a divine anguish that seeks to be understood, or perhaps simply to be shared. The psychological impact of the tear zone is as destructive as its physical effects. It strips away not just paint and wood, but also sanity and hope, replacing them with a chilling, pervasive despair. It is a place where the air itself weeps, and that weeping carries a weight of sorrow so profound it crushes the spirit, leaving an indelible mark on the minds of those who survive its impossible embrace. This makes the tear zone not just a scientific enigma, but a living, weeping wound in the heart of the ocean, a testament to a grief that transcends time and reason. We have journeyed through the harrowing accounts of the Njord's heart and the sea serpent, ships consumed by an impossible rain. We've witnessed modern technology melt away in its presence and delved into ancient sagas of a crying god, mourning a stolen heart. We've explored the most audacious scientific hypotheses, from superacidic geothermal vents and hyper-reactive elemental deposits to colossal, acid-excreting organisms. Each theory, while attempting to ground the phenomenon in the quantifiable, only pushes the boundaries of the known, replacing one enigma with another equally staggering. The ultimate question remains, what is the crying god of the deeps? Is it, as the most compelling scientific theories propose, an extreme geological anomaly, a unique, sustained geothermal vent deep beneath the northern seas, continually releasing a concentrated plume of halogen acids that react violently with atmospheric moisture, or perhaps a vast, undiscovered deposit of incredibly reactive minerals perpetually dissolving and releasing corrosive vapors, their decay forming the relentless, burning tears? If so, the sheer scale and persistence of such a geological wound defy conventional understanding. It would imply a planetary process so rare, so potent, that it reshapes our very geological maps. Or could it be a biological phenomenon of unimaginable scale, a colossal, sessile abyssal organism, an unknown form of life so ancient and alien that its very metabolism excretes the corrosive agents, its immense biological presence creating the localized atmospheric containment? If this were true, it would fundamentally alter our understanding of deep-sea ecosystems and the limits of terrestrial biology. The heart of the abyssal light might not be a lost treasure, but the bioluminescent core of a titanic creature, its existence a constant, agonizing process that manifests as this burning lament. But then, we must confront the whispers of the Njord's heart crew, the profound, inexplicable despair reported by modern investigators, the pervasive sense of sorrow that seems to emanate from the zone itself, the consistent folklore of a god in mourning. Can science truly explain a phenomenon that seems to actively radiate grief, a spiritual malaise that seeps into the minds of those who approach it? This is where the scientific and the mythical converge, where the rational explanation begins to fray at the edges, leaving us at the precipice of a more profound, unsettling truth. Is the tear zone merely a hyper-extreme natural phenomenon, a geological or biological wound that coincidentally aligns with ancient tales of sorrow, or are the legends literal? Is it the active physical manifestation of a primordial deity's grief, its tears, quite literally dissolving the world that stole its solace? The tear zone actively rejects intrusion. It melts the instruments of science as readily as it did the ancient timbers. It guards its secret with a corrosive shroud, a veil of burning tears that no human, no vessel, no drone has yet penetrated without being consumed. It is a fixed point of perpetual annihilation, a place where the ocean itself weeps, a wound that refuses to heal. The crying god of the deeps remains an active, destructive mystery, a place where the very heavens rain acid, where the air tastes of sorrow and decay, and where the line between natural law and ancient divine anguish blurs into a terrifying, unresolved question. What lies beneath those weeping waters? And what precisely? Is it mourning with such an eternal, destructive fury? The ocean holds its breath, guarding its secret, and waits. From the harrowing log of the Njord's heart to the melted timbers of the sea serpent and the failed attempts of modern technology, the facts are undeniable. A precise, localized zone in the northern seas where the very sky rains acid. Science offers theories: extreme geothermal vents, reactive elemental deposits, even colossal acid-producing organisms, each pushing the boundaries of the known. Yet none fully account for the profound, almost spiritual despair reported by those who skirt its edge, the chilling silence, the pervasive smell of decay, and the consistent ancient legends of a weeping entity. Is the tear zone merely a geological anomaly, a biological oddity, or a meteorological paradox? Or is it truly the manifestation of a primordial grief, the literal tears of a crying god, mourning a lost artifact, and actively repelling all who dare to approach its wound? The corrosive barrier holds, dissolving all inquiry, guarding a secret that defies our understanding of both the natural world and the ancient powerful forces that may still stir within its depths. The crying god of the deeps remains an active, destructive mystery, a place where the ocean itself rejects intrusion, guarding a secret that could reshape our understanding of maritime history and the very planet beneath our feet. What do you believe truly lies at the heart of the tear zone? A scientific anomaly, or something far more ancient and sorrowful? Share your theories in the comments below.